My name is Karen A, an addict and compulsive overeater. I also identify as a coda and a couple of other things in there for your pleasure. This is the Afro-Euro Reco12 podcast, part of the Reco12.com family of recovery resources. We are a group of people internationally who have recovered from all addictions, all afflictions. Most of us, many of us, use the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous for our recovery, although, like the big book says, we do not have the monopoly on recovery. And if you love other literature, whether it's CODA, Al-Anon, OA, DA, you name it, we'd love to hear your story, your recovery, experience, strength, and hope, so that we could share it with the addict who is still suffering. Like I said, we bring together people of all addictions, all afflictions. Our shares are recorded. You could actually hear them at Reco12.com. We've got people on there from AA, OA, GA, DA, Workaholics Anonymous. We've got bulimics. We've got anorexics. We've got hoarders. We've got sexaholics, people addicts, anons, codas, emotions anonymous, you name it. We probably got it on there. And if we don't, and you're recovered in that fellowship, bring it on. Reach out to me. I'll put my number in the chat. We'd love to have you speak here. The way this meeting works is that our speaker today, that's going to be Rhea B, will share for 30 minutes. And you can either type your questions in the chat and we'll take them at the end, or you can unmute and go ahead and ask them. And we'll take them live and hear from Rhea's experience, strength, and hope. If you would like to speak on Reco12.com, on Reco12, whether in the Afro-Euro time zone or in the US time zone with Justin B, our founder, you could reach out to me. I will put my number in the chat. And there are costs to support the Zoom platform and to upload the recordings and all that jazz. So if you'd like, you can contribute a seventh tradition at Reco12.com/support. We accept PayPal and Venmo. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce Rhea. Like I said, Rhea, you're going to have 30 minutes to tell us a little bit about yourself, your story, your recovery journey, and how you are living in the solution today, working with others, spreading the light, and anything else you want to share with us. Rhea, I'm also going to ask you before you start to maybe put your number in the chat. If people want to reach out to you or ask you questions privately, they'll be able to do so. I've put my number in the chat now. Without further ado, welcome.
Thank you very much. My name is Rhea. I am a compulsive overeater, a bulimic, an addict, a codependent, a sex and love addict. Basically, if it makes me feel good, I want more of it. And I am fundamentally a fear-based person who needs help. So I'll tell you very quickly my story because I really want to focus on the solution, not the problem. But my primary addiction is food. Drugs came up as a close second, but I didn't have to do as much damage with them because I loved food so much. Sex and love was tied with drugs because I was obsessed with finding love, getting people to like me, getting people to approve of me, to find me desirable, to lust after me, to validate my existence by acknowledging that I was someone worth their attention. So, like I said, I am a fear-based individual, which means as a kid, I was always very anxious, which I medicated and self-soothed with food, which then led to me becoming an obese child, which led to bullying, which led to more fear, which led to more food. When I was 16, I picked up bulimia because it was my plan B. It was my way of exercising control. And that led to a more vicious cycle. I went to college, started experimenting with drugs. Really, it was mostly marijuana. And I remember being at a party one night when I was 19. I still don't know how I know this, but someone asked me if I wanted to do coke. And I said, I can't, because I know if I do it, I'll like it and I won't be able to stop doing it. This was before I ever walked into a meeting. But somehow inherently, I was like, don't even go there because that's going to open a door you will not be able to close. So like I said, it's really only because of my initial love affair with food and people that it saved me from going too far into the drugs. But by the time I was really at my bottom, it was like food and pot, food and pot, food and pot, contemplating suicide. Not really, there are people who are high functioning in their disease, and it's hard for a lot of people to understand. But for someone like me, I, had my dream job. I was working at Disney World. And then after that, I was working at Universal, the actual film studio in California. And I was like calling out sick because I was staying home and binging and I was like not functional. So long story short, I went to my first meeting when I was 19 and I didn't understand what anyone was talking about, but I did hear someone in the meeting identify themselves as a compulsive overeater. And I went, whoa, that I've never heard those words before, but that is me. And it was the first time in my life I genuinely felt like somebody would understand and that I wasn't the only person who had this thing. I thought of myself as this freak. I mean, I went to a diet and fitness center down in North Carolina. I stayed there for a month with my mother, and there were people who were talking about, caloric intake versus metabolic output, like eat less, exercise more, and you'll lose weight. And it's like, even I was 14, I was like, duh. But I remember saying to them, like, what if I can't not eat something? And they were like, just don't eat it. And I'm like, no, that was not the answer to that multiple choice question I just gave you. And anyone who's an addict will know, like, if there's a bottle of something in the house, if there's a joint in the house, if there's a container of pills in the house, if there's anything, and I say to you, what if I can't not do it? The answer is not just don't do it. The answer is, do I do it now? Do I do it later? Do I have half now and put the rest away so that I have more later? Do I just have it and then go out and replace it and bring it back? Like, any addict will tell you that just don't do it is not an option. So anyway, I went to meetings for about 2 years before I was really willing to follow suggestions. And when I was 22, I had my first experience with turning over my will. I sat in a meeting, I don't know why, particularly that night, but I heard people who had what I wanted, and the cartoon light bulb went off over my head. And I said, maybe if I do what they do, I'll have what they have. And that started my journey in abstinence in Overeaters Anonymous. And after that, I also stopped using drugs, and I have not used drugs since. And, when Karen sent me the info, it said turning my will and my life over is the topic today. I laughed because I didn't turn my will and my life over in the beginning. I turned my will over in regards to food. And I've spent the last 22 years turning over my will in bite-sized chunks. Turning over my life in bite-sized chunks, because I want to give God what I don't mind letting go of, but I want to control everything else. And so slowly, I've had to give up a lot of things, a lot of the crutches that I relied on instead of God. First, it was food. Then it was other people. It was my mom. My mom was taken from me when I was 27. She died of cancer when she was 55. And we had a great relationship, but I over-relied on her because I was codependent, and so was she. And so God was like, listen, I need her soul for whatever reason, and you need to not have her soul because you need to rely on me more. And so, there was that. And then it came to finding a partner, and then I found my husband, like all these little, and then it was for me, I don't know how many people on here are Jewish, but for me, like when I started finding a relationship with my higher power, I got called back to Judaism. And I wasn't a religious person by any means, but God was like, it's time for you to start taking on Jewish observance. And I was like, hell no. And God's like, thank you for your feedback. That's what we're doing anyway. So, and that was, about 20 years ago also. So little by little, I've had to turn over more and more. In my marriage, I have 5 kids. So, all of them, like I have a son. First of all, I have 2 stepdaughters and I have 3 sons. And my stepdaughters are, even though I've not given birth to them, they are my children. And they've been my kids for 19 years. And, they have stuff they're going through. And we have my 17-year-old son who is on the spectrum and very high functioning, but has is very challenge averse and avoids life by all means necessary. And he reminds me so much of myself. And, you know, and just all the regular kid stuff. But for me, the final frontier at this point, aside from my marriage and my children, is money. I actually just took on a new sponsor to take me through the steps, particularly focused on financial fear and the way that I live and work around money. Because it's caused a lot of damage in my life, not necessarily in terms of debt, although I do have some debt, but not like a lot of, not to a certain extreme where like they're going to take my house away, but more about what my expectations have been versus real life. And because of the fear that comes up, the choices that I've made in my relationships have really caused damage. And I'll just share my husband. I grew up in a home where I had everything I wanted. My father made a lot of money. We went on trips. Anything I wanted, I didn't even have to ask. I could just have it. And I learned that my father was my higher power. My father was my source. And so marriage was my financial plan. Like, I'm just going to find another man who's going to do that for me. And my husband, when I met him, had actually just sold a business. So he had money, but that was quickly gone. And so a lot of the undercurrent of a lot of my interactions with my husband has been this resentment of, you're supposed to be this thing I thought you were going to be. You were supposed to be like my dad, who just gave me whatever I wanted. What I didn't realize was that I was making humans my higher power. And it really came to a head recently when I started getting over involved in social media and all these different things. The figuring it outness started driving me crazy. And so I really had a third step experience where it was like, I cannot handle the way that I react and my expectations and my vision around money, my fears around running my own business, all of these things. And so that's really been my focus in terms of turning my life over these days. And it's interesting. I had an experience this morning, and I'll be totally honest. This year, this morning, I went to the store and did my shopping. And when I checked out, I didn't have enough money in my account. And so I texted my husband and I was like, can you please send more? And he sent me a little more. And I said, can you please send a little more? And he said, listen, I'll send you what I've got, but literally that's it. And thank God I was able to pay for the groceries, but like the stress and the fear, like those are the moments that send me into that tailspin of, I need to now spend the rest of the day making phone calls, going on Indeed, finding the figuring it outness. And instead of doing that, I got in touch with two people who I know work a really, really, really strong spiritually centered program. And I said, I need help. I want to do this differently. And so my sponsor actually sent me this prayer that I'll share with you because I think it really is an amazing way to turn my will and my life over. So it says, God, I abandon myself to you, my whole self without reservation. I abandon my worries and concerns about blank. And obviously you can use this for whatever, to you, even though I have trouble believing you can manage this area for me. God, I am willing to believe. I give you my obsessive thinking, my constant willfulness and fear. I abandon the belief I have to figure it out, be better, and make things happen. God, my way has not worked. I know you are real, God, and I humbly ask for a change of heart here, a change of mind. I'm willing to trust you now with my life and purpose on this planet. I humbly ask that you hear my prayer. Show me you hear it. I am tired of feeling hopeless and frightened. Please take it. It is too much for me. Please show me how you would have me be. These difficulties have outlived their usefulness. My current old thinking does not serve. Relieve me, God, of this heaviness and show me you are big enough to handle this. I'm willing. Take myself so that I may take myself will so I may better do yours, as mine is a prison. May your victory over my challenges create in me a softer heart and deeper faith. May it bear witness to those I love of your extraordinary grace and the love you have for me and for them. And when I feel like I need to solve or fix, God, please remind me of who I am and of who you are, and gently show me that you are running the show so I don't have to. Please help me, God, I need a miracle. It just like really hit straight to the heart of what this disease for me is about. I hear people say it's about the substance, but it's not about the substance. And then, my sponsor said the other day in my fellowship, the food is a red herring. The alcoholic is a red herring. The drug is a red herring. We think that that's the problem, but then we take the problem away and we realize that that was our solution to the problem. And so now, without my drug of choice, I'm just an unmedicated sociopath, right? Now I'm just walking around with no means of taking off the edge. So I need another way to live. Just stopping using is not actually a solution. It's just taking away the most the most demanding symptom, you know? And so just like cancer, it's not just, oh, my stomach hurts because I have stomach cancer, God forbid. It's, I can't just like stop eating dairy. I need to go through chemotherapy. And the 12 steps are spiritual chemotherapy. That's what they are. They're going in and clearing out all of the stuff that is causing my problem. And the good thing about the 12 steps, unlike regular chemotherapy, is that it doesn't take away the good stuff. It just takes away the bad stuff. Because spirituality is a process of subtraction. It's not adding things. It's taking away the things that are blocking me. And I actually had an amazing experience the other day where I was walking. I take walks in the morning in the fields in my town with my dog. It's part of my spiritual practice. I find God very easily in nature and outside, especially when the sun is rising. And thinking about finances, and I'm listening to this class, and the teacher's talking about how God is our provider. And like, if I want a raise and I go to a company, I don't go ask the custodian for the raise. I go and ask the person who's in charge of the company for the raise. So like for me, when I rely on people, I'm basically asking the custodian for a raise. And so I basically said to God, I was just so moved to say it. I was like, God, you and I are in business. We are partners now. You are the VC. You're going to bring the cash and clients, and I'm going to do the heavy lifting. I'm going to do the work. I'm going to do the marketing. I'm going to do the actual coaching. I'm going to do all the things that I do. And we're just going to be in this together. There's no other power in charge of this except you. We are now in business. And I literally went like this and like signed my name in the air. Like, okay, we're making a contract right now. You and me, just you and me together in this thing. You are my business partner. You are my boss. Let's go. We're now in business. And for me, that's how I have to do this. I have to do it this way because I've been in this program for 22 years, no, more, 24 years almost. And clean for 22. And like, except for 1 3-month little relapse way back. But anyway, the point is that these are the things that will take me down. And I have tried for so long to control my finances and try to make my life fit the expectations that I have of what it's supposed to look like. And it's not working, which means God has a better idea for me and I need to get out of the way. And that applies to everything. That applies to my marriage, how I think my husband should be, how I think I should feel, how I think everything should look. It applies to my children. It applies to my relationships. It applies to other people. And I need help because clearly if I knew how to run my own life, I wouldn't be in a 12-step program. My best thinking brought me to recovery. Like the way that I was coping with life brought me to a 12-step meeting. What does that tell you? So I can't really be trusted without God's help, without God working through me to run this life the way that it needs to be run. What I need to do, I use the example of the old TV show, Charlie's Angels. They also made 2 movies out of it. Most of you probably know it. But anyway, for those who don't know it, there was this show and movie called Charlie's Angels, where there's basically this guy, his name is Charlie, and these 3 pretty agents called the Angels. And at the beginning of every episode, Charlie comes on this little radio or speakerphone, whatever, and he's like, "Hey, Angels." And they're like, "Hey, Charlie." And he gives them their mission, right? And then the Angels, who are, dressed in cool outfits and have guns and stuff, they go out and do Charlie's mission. Great show. The problem with me is that I'm an angel who thinks she's Charlie. And so I'll just keep giving myself missions and trying to go and do them, and then wondering why the show completely sucks. Like, can you imagine a show where Charlie was like, "Okay, angels, go do this." And they're like, "Yeah, no." And then they just go blow some, like, that's the terrible show. Like, that's not a good show. So like, that's literally what I'm doing with my life if I try to make myself Charlie. So I have to remember that I am an angel and not Charlie. And every day gives me opportunities to remember that. I will say also, Karen asked me when the meeting started about how my fast went. Yesterday, for those who celebrate, it was Yom Kippur, and it's customary to fast. And I learned yesterday that I cannot fast anymore. And I'd even spoken to someone about it who like has Jewish knowledge, and they were like, yeah, you probably shouldn't. And I was like, no, I can do this. The thing is, just like an alcoholic doesn't react normally to alcohol, I don't react normally to doing things with food. I have an eating disorder. And so when I try to fast and do things with food that are not consistent with the way that I usually do them, my head gets activated. And I start thinking about eating, not eating. What didn't I get? What did I get? And it's dangerous. It just is. And as much as I don't love the idea that I'm different from people, it's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. And so yesterday really cemented that for me. And again, like I have to take that to God too. God, I thought that I was supposed to do this thing, and it's really hard for me to do this. And it's not like normal hard, like for most people where they're like, oh, not eating sucks. It's no, not eating can like trigger my disease. So, take that. And, today, like I said, in the grocery store, I didn't have enough money and I came home wanting to cry because I felt like a failure, even though we paid for the groceries were paid for, but like coming home and feeling like a failure. And one of my best friends was like, take that sense of failure to God too. Take it all, throw it all at God. It's not just, oh, I need your help running my business, or I need help with this. I need help with my thinking and my feelings around all of these things, because my thinking is what gets me into trouble in the first place. As I'm going through the big book again with my new sponsor, she's having me go through it, asking myself questions through the lens of what I'm doing now, through the focus of like, money and et cetera, and my fear. And over it comes back to, when he takes the first drink, right? But for me, it's when I indulge the first thought. When that first thought pops into my head of, oh, I should be doing it this way, and then I go and do that, I've set a cycle in motion where I start being I lose my emotional sobriety, I get all feared up, I lash out at people, I act impulsively, I bring chaos into my world. Like it begins with that first thought. And I saw this amazing thing the other day that somebody said, like the most important prayer they say in the morning is, God, please get into my head before I do. And like, that's so me. Like, God, I need you to just not only take my life, just take my brain. Just take that CNN ticker tape of news that happens at the bottom of my brain all day long and tells me that we're all going to die and we're going to, everything's going to fall apart and we could all lose this at any moment. Like all of that crap that my diseased brain feeds me, take it, change the ticker tape. Change it to God's got you, God's got you, God's got you, God's taking care of it, everything's fine. Even when it's not fine, it's fine because it's good everything's all for the good. This is something that I consistently forget, just like when I consistently forgot that when I, picked up certain substances, it was game over for me. So today, the way that I try to live in that step is every morning I wake up early. I pray and meditate, usually do a guided meditation. I practice two-way prayer, which for those who are unfamiliar is I write down like, a morning greeting to God, things that are on my mind, what's going on, questions, and then write back to myself as if God was answering. And it's amazing what kind of insights come when I do that. Most of the time, God doesn't give me very specific instructions, which is kind of annoying. Like I kind of wish like every day, like every Sunday, God would send like one of those blast emails that's like, okay, here's what's happening this week. Like on Monday, this is going to happen. He doesn't do that. By the way, I only use the pronoun he because like, I don't have another way to describe God. I happen to believe that God is genderless. So I'm just using he as like, because I have no other words. So forgive me if I've offended anyone. But the point is, God does not send those blast emails, and it's not fair. He does not clear his plans with me first, and I don't appreciate that. But the point is that since that's not the way of the world, I have to be willing to trust in God, right? Like someone sent me a prayer earlier today. God, I have no idea what you're doing, but I trust you. Like that's the bottom line, right? That's step 3. I have no idea what you're doing with me. I have no idea what you're doing with my life. I have no idea what's going to happen in 10 minutes from now, but I trust you. I have to keep trusting you because I don't have a choice. If I don't trust God, I will kill myself. It's really as simple as that. Not necessarily that I'm going to go, God forbid, and cut my wrists in the bathroom, but I will then go into behaviors that are so self-destructive that they will first lead to my spiritual and emotional death, because they will cut me off from myself and other people and my spiritual connection. And then eventually I'll be so miserable that I'll be floating in that like between life and death stage where I'm too afraid to kill myself, but it's too painful to live. For those who have been there, they know what that feels like, and it's hell. It's hell on earth. You don't need to warn me that if I do something bad, I'm going to go to hell, because honestly, I've been there already. Like they talk about, religion. It's for people who don't want to go to hell, and spirituality is for people who've already been there. Like that's me. Hell doesn't scare me. I've experienced hell. I know what it's like. And so for me, I left to my own devices, I will send myself to hell. And I don't want that anymore. I want to live in the fourth dimension of existence, which is they refer to as God consciousness. The three dimensions are time, space, and I can't remember the third one, whatever. I'm not sciencey. Time, space, and that other one. And the fourth dimension is spirituality, is God consciousness. And that's the place, that's where I want to live. Bill W. talks about that, being rocketed into the fourth dimension of existence and living in a world where we live in God consciousness and God awareness and seek God's guidance in all things. I want that. I want that more than anything. I literally want that more than anything. I will give up anything to have that. And I need to continue to have the gift of desperation in order to continue wanting that. Because the minute I get complacent, I'm like, I got this, thanks. And it's amazing how quickly I will forget. But that's my disease. That's alcoholism, And just to review for those who don't know what step 3 is, because that's where we turn our will and our lives over. I just want to read out of the big book for a second. How am I doing on time? Is anyone timing me? I have no idea.
Got questions about addiction, recovery, or just life in general? Let's noodle it out together. Grab your big book, a pen, a highlighter, and a notepad, and join Nikki M and me, Justin B, on Reco12 Noodle It Out with Nikki M. Each episode, we take real-life questions, ours, yours, and those from the recovery community, and dig deep into the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous to find real, practical solutions. So, if you're ready to do the work and apply the solution, tune in to Noodle It Out with Nikki M, streaming now on your favorite podcast platform.
You're fine. You just go ahead.
Okay, just keep going, fine. So for those who have their big book, we just look on page 60, right? So it says in the middle of the page, our description of the alcoholic, the chapters, the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after make clear 3 pertinent ideas. A, that we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. B, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. And C, that God could and would if he were sought. So those are the prerequisites to turning my will and my life over. If I don't see a need to turn my will and my life over, I'm not going to do it. Just like if I don't see a need to go to a 12-step meeting, I'm not going to go. You think I don't have other things to do today, but sit here and talk to you on a meeting? It's Friday in Israel. Like, it's almost Shabbat. I got stuff to do today. But I know that I am alcoholic. I know I can't manage my own lives. I know that no human power can relieve my alcoholism because I've tried all the other powers, and only God can, because God has made that evident to me over and over again. So now, being convinced, we were at step 3, which is that we decided to turn our will and our life over to God as we understood him. Just what do we mean by that? And just what do we do? The first requirement is that we be convinced that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. I think of myself as like one of those rickety boats with one of those motors that just don't work quite well. Like, I think of somebody like on a rickety boat in the Everglades, like just kind of going through the swamps and like has a motor that's like a little questionable. Like, that's what my self-will looks like. Okay. Like, I have a crappy boat in the Everglades. On that basis, we are almost always in collision with something or somebody, even though our motives are good, right? So like, again, if I'm an angel thinking I'm Charlie, and then I'm running into people who are all angels thinking they're Charlie, we're going to have some problems. Most people try to live by self-propulsion. Each person is like the actor who wants to run the whole show, is forever trying to arrange the lights, the ballet, the scenery, and the rest of the players in his own way. And I'll tell you, I literally did that when I was 16. I did a lot of theater when I was younger. And in my high school, when we had our production, they brought in a professional director to direct the play. And I was like, thanks for stopping by. I got this. And started like telling all the other people in the play, like what they need to do. And let me tell you what an encouraging director I was. I had one friend who was in the play, and I was so brutal to her that she's now a veterinarian. Like, she will never do theater again in her life. Okay. Okay. Like that's the kind of director I am. Okay. If only his arrangements would stay put, if only people would do as he wished, the show would be great, right? Like, I know what's best for you. Why don't you just listen to me? Like, if you just do what I say you're going to do, you'll be happy. What is your problem? Everybody, including himself, would be pleased. Life would be wonderful. And trying to make these arrangements, our actor may sometimes be quite virtuous, kind, considerate, patient, generous, even modest and self-sacrificing. I can't say that was the way I rolled. Mean, egotistical, selfish, and dishonest. Me. What happens? The show doesn't come off very well, right? He exerts himself more. He becomes more demanding. Now, here's the line that hits me every time, okay? He becomes on the next occasion still more demanding and gracious, as the case may be. Still, the play does not suit him, okay? If somehow I manage to shoehorn everything in my life to look the way that I want it to, for those 5 seconds, there will still be something missing. There will still be this sense of something's not right. You know why? Because the something not right is not out there. It's in here. That's why the play never suits me. I can have everything in line. I can have a full bank account, perfectly well-behaved kids with no problems, a husband who adores me, which I actually do, but like a husband who does what I want him to do all the time. I could have everything I want, and the play will still not suit me because I have a default setting of restlessness, irritability, and discontent. And so it doesn't matter what's happening out here. It matters what's going on in here. That's why I'm never satisfied. That's why even for those 5 minutes where everything's okay, I'm still like, yeah, but wait, because I have a spiritual illness that I think I can fix by arranging the physical world, by arranging my circumstances, I will feel better. That's not true. Now, that's not to say there are certain things that would be easier, like to deal with if they changed, but my actual malady of alcoholism, the I self me, does not change by anyone else or any other situation changing. That changes by me working the 12 steps because I start to see the world through God's eyes instead of my own. I start being able to look, and I said this on a meeting the other day, this example that like I mentioned, I go for a walk with my dog every morning. And she knows the drill. She's an old pro at this. She knows where we go. She knows where the car is. She knows everything. But for some reason the other day we go on this walk and we run into this dog walker with like 5 dogs. And she's seen these dogs before. These are not new dogs to her. For some reason, she gets completely spooked and takes off, like out of the fields and starts running home. And I'm like, what? This is so weird. Like, why did she do that? And so I get in my car, drive home, and I arrived home like 10 minutes before I usually do, before I get, everybody out in the morning. And I noticed that my 15-year-old had overslept. And I was like, dude, you missed your bus. And he's like, I know, I'm sorry. And I was like, okay, get up. If you get up right now and get dressed, I can take you to school right now, get you there and get back in time before morning rush because I have to drive him to like a town 10 minutes away. Get back before the morning rush, get your brother to school, and I'll be back in time. Like and I realized that it was the fact that my dog took off exactly when she did, and I found her, of course, found her exactly when she did and got me home exactly when I got there, was to get my son where he needed to go exactly on time so that I would not get stuck in traffic. Now, is that why God did it? I have no idea, but I can at least see God working in those ways because I'm looking at my life through God's eyes instead of saying, why is my dog an idiot? Like, why can't these kids get out of bed? Why can't this? Blah, 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 blah. Why do I have to drive to Hadera at this time in the morning? No, look at what happened. Everything worked out. It was weird and I didn't really, it was annoying, but it ended up working out exactly the way it needed to work out. So that's what, for me, like turning my will and my life over looks like. I'm not the director anymore. God's the director. I just need to be curious and be like, I wonder why that happened. Let's roll with it and see. Let's see. Okay, so we talk about, now we're on the bottom of page 61. Our actor is self-centered, egocentric, as people like to call it nowadays. He is like the retired businessman who loves in the Florida sunshine in the winter, complaining of the sad state of the nation. The minister who sighs over the sins of the 20th century, politicians and reformers who are all sure all would be utopia. The rest of the world would only behave. The outlaw safecracker who thinks society has wronged him, and the alcoholic who has lost all and is locked up. Are not most of us concerned with ourselves, our resentments, or our self-pity? I love these examples because each of these people, the businessman, the minister, the politicians, these people are looking at a situation and saying, look over there, look what's wrong with them. If only they changed, it would be a better situation. But actually, you're seeing a problem and you're the solution. You're part of the solution. You know, a retired businessman who complains about the sad state of the nation. If you're a retired businessman, that means you have some money to spend. Where are you using that money to help the nation that you're complaining about? You know, the minister who sighs over the sins of the 20th century. Well, who are you inspiring people? Are you going out and telling people what they're capable of? How about you? What kind of sins are you committing? Politicians and reformers. I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't know a lot of politicians who are well behaved. You know, so if I'm looking out at the world and saying, oh, all these people, you know, don't behave themselves. Well, sorry, but maybe you shouldn't be doing A, B, and C. You know what I mean? And an alcoholic who's looking around at his life and going, oh, poor me. You know, my wife left and now I have to live in a trailer and now this, and this. Like, yeah, why do you think that happened? Like, we are the root of our own problems. The way we see the world and the way we look at the world is the cause of our problems. And I'll tell you something. I had, so it wasn't me personally, but my husband has a childhood friend who is an alcoholic and drug addict. He got sober on his own a couple of years ago and was like, I'm fine. He never actually joined a program, then started using drugs, and he is now getting divorced. He has 7 children. And the other night texted his soon-to-be ex-wife texted my husband and was like, he just said he's coming over to the house to say goodbye to his kids because he's going to kill himself. And he did not, because for whatever. But I said as I thought about this person, I was like, I can't even judge him because he's so sick. Like, that's what the selfishness looks like. Like, you've destroyed your own life. You're stuck in self-pity. And then you're going to go to the people who you've traumatized and re-traumatize them so that you have a clear conscience. Like, such blindness to other people because we're so self-centered. Again, I tell you this story not because he's such a bad person. He's just a really sick person. And I can't say that I wouldn't do the same thing if I was in his place. There, but for the grace of God, go I. You know, there was definitely, I remember one night in college where I felt like no one was paying attention to me. So I locked the door to my room and basically made everybody think that I was going to kill myself so that people would pay attention to me. Now, I doubt that that's what he was doing, but I do feel that there was an element of self-centeredness there that was beyond. These are the kinds of things we do. Maybe not to that extreme all the time. But the point is, I create problems and then get so caught up in self-pity about them that I can't see the forest from the trees. I can't see reality. I can't see things as they are. So I have to see things. I have to align myself with God so that I can see them through God's eyes, right? It says our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. Oh, I'm sorry. One paragraph above, page 62. Selfishness, that we think is the root of our troubles. And it completely is. You know, I want what I want and I want it now. And if you have every single human being on earth going, I want what I want when I want it now, I mean, the state of the world is evidence of what that looks like, right? Driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity, we step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate. Sometimes they hurt us, seemingly without provocation, but we invariably find that at some time in the past, we have made decisions based on self, which later placed us in a position to be hurt. And that might be something, it can be something, you know, more obvious, but can also be something really subtle. I expect this person to be different than they are. And then when they act in character, I'm hurt by that. Well, guess what, buddy? Like, that's just what it is. So our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. They arise out of ourselves. And the alcoholic is an extreme example of self-will run riot. That's me. I'm the crappy motor on the crappy boat in the Everglades. Above everything, we alcoholics must be rid of the selfishness. We must, or it kills us. There are lots of death threats sprinkled throughout the big book, and this one is very, very clear, right? Selfishness is the root of my problem, and if I let it go unchecked, it will kill me. And it's true. And not because anything, it's because I'm going to take action that will kill myself.
Hey, Spearheads, if you're looking to dive deeper into the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous with people who live the solution, then you won't want to miss Reco12 Big Book Roundtable. Join David G., Nikki M., and me, the moderator Justin B., 3 recovered addicts from multiple fellowships, as we break down the big book line by line. In each 30-minute episode, we share our experience, strength, and hope in a real, raw, and practical roundtable discussion. So, if you are ready to learn and apply what you learn, tune in to Reco12 Big Book Roundtable on your favorite podcast platform.
The problem is I can't get rid of selfishness by myself. How many times did I read those self-help books, like, the 4 agreements or whatever, and wake up in the morning and be like, I'm going to be a better person today. And then, I interacted with another human and that went out the window. I need a power greater than me, just like I need a power greater than me to take away my desire for alcohol or for food or for drugs or whatever. I need God to take away my selfishness. A sick brain can't, what was it? Oh, Einstein, I think he said, you cannot fix a problem with the same thinking that created it. Right? So I cannot rely on myself to get rid of my own selfishness because I'm a selfishness manufacturing factory. If that's what I manufacture, I cannot go back into the system and try to have it not make selfishness. That's literally what I do. So I need something greater than me to step in and take my selfishness away. And God makes that possible. There often seems no way of entirely getting rid of self without his aid. Many of us have had moral and philosophical convictions galore, but we cannot live up to them even though we would have liked to. Neither could we reduce our self-centeredness much by wishing or trying on our own power. We had to have God's help. Just like I cannot stop eating or drugging or, using other people compulsively, I cannot get rid of my selfishness by myself. This is I need a spiritual solution for this, right? So in order to do that, this is where our third step starts. First of all, we had to quit playing God. It didn't work. I am not Charlie anymore. I am an angel. We decided that hereafter, God was going to be our director. He is the principal. We are his agents. He is the father. We are his children. Most good ideas are simple, and this concept was the keystone of the new and triumphant arch through which we pass to freedom. So now, once we start doing that, they give us promises of what this looks like on page 63, okay? When we sincerely took such a position, all sorts of remarkable things followed. And for those who are familiar with the big book, this is a direct mirror to the bedevilments that we read about on page 52, which describes how crappy our lives are when we're using. So this tells us what it looks like when we put God first, when we turn our will and our lives over. Okay, we had a new employer. And like I said the other day, I literally signed a contract in the air with God and made him my employer the other day. And capital E employer. Being all powerful, he provided what we needed if we kept close to him and performed his work well. In other words, I don't have to worry about getting what I need because God's going to give it to me. Established on such a footing, we became less and less interested in ourselves, our little plans and designs, right? Like if I don't have to worry about me getting what I need and I know it's going to be taken care of, I don't have to worry about that. I can go focus on what God wants me to do. More and more, we became interested in seeing what we could contribute to life as we felt new power flow in. As we enjoyed peace of mind, as we discovered we could face life successfully, as we became conscious of his presence, we began to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, or the hereafter. We were reborn. That sounds nice, doesn't it? Why in the hell do I keep running away from doing that? Because I don't want to do the work it takes for me to do that. I don't want to give up control because that's scary. But thank God, as an alcoholic, we are the luckiest people in the world because our disease will beat us into submission to the point where we have no choice but to trust and rely on God. Most people struggle with the same things we do. We just take it to an extreme. And if they can get away with it, they never have to do any of this work, but they also miss out on the benefits of what the 12 steps offer us. And it's this, right? We get to live on a new footing. We are provided for. We are rocketed into the 4th dimension. It's amazing. So now we get to the 3rd step prayer. And I'm just going to say it with all of you as my witness, and then I'll close from there. We were now at step 3. Many of us said to our maker as we understood him, and that's important. It doesn't have to, it can be your God, whatever that God looks like to you. God, I offer myself to thee to build with me and to do with me as you will. Relieve me of the bondage of self that I may better do your will. Take away my difficulties that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of your power, your love, and your way of life. May I do your will always. In other words, take me out of the equation entirely. Take this ego, this I, self, me, get rid of it. Make me, clear out all the things, clear out this house, and just make me a vessel for you to work through. And when I know I'm being worked through and I'm being used for God's work in this world, I don't have to worry about anything. It's so counterintuitive, but it's the truth. And so I'm just going to bless me today that I'm able to do that to the best of my ability, and bless all of you that you experience the kind of freedom they promise in this book. And bless you all with the willingness to do this work, because it has absolutely saved and changed my life. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I totally love Charlie's Angels. We're gonna have to have it out to be Sabrina.
Wait, the movie or the book?
Brunettes.
The movie or the TV show?
TV show, sister.
Okay.
Keeping it real. Although I think I'm a little bit older than you are, but it's a good throwback. One of my favorites. Part of the fantasy addiction, I guess, that we share, right? I always think that I'm like, hopping out there to get a bad guy. I remember when I was raising my kids, just for another throwback, and I would, my, anger and emotions as an addict would get the best of me. I'd be like, you're ready to laugh, right? I'm like, why am I like Chips? I'm like putting on my puffer coat and hopping on my motorcycle to get the bad guy. And it's just a child having a tantrum, like, get a grip. Anyway, that's what happens when you grow up in LA. So everything's a screenplay, everything's a TV show, or, I digress, but it's just so relevant. We all have our fantasy addictions, or people we want it to be like, or things we had to do. And then in real life, it doesn't work out so well, If you guys relate to this as addicts, I loved a lot about what Rhea shared. And it's just like, other people could get mad. She was saying other people fast, everybody fasts. All Jews who are not, having a serious medical condition or aged or taking medication fast. Everybody tells people off at intersections. Everybody tells everybody how to drive and how to do everything else, certainly in my country here in the Holy Land. But it's like, I do not have that dubious luxury, because when I do that, like, everything goes toast, and I don't mean to trigger any food addicts. I mean, HELL kind of, burnt kind of crispy toast. Everyone else can like just holler at their kids and, flip out and move on. And for me, it like knocks me out for 3 days, And our big book tells us that we must smash the delusion that we're like other people. Other people could kind of go about their days, say that they're too busy for this or too busy for that. It's all the people who don't do much who are too busy for everything, And we must smash the delusion that we could do that too. Except if you're a codependent, you do probably have to learn how to say no. Someone just asked me if I'd have guests for dinner, and I already have guests. So yeah, next time. We don't want to overdo the people pleasing, but that's another thing. We can't roll the way everybody else rolls. We can't get angry the way everybody else get angry. We can't eat the way everybody else eats. We can't, talk to members, I guess it's not PC to say, of the opposite sex of the sex we're interested in. We can't talk to people that we find cute the way other people can, because it's like, we have the allergy of the body and the obsession of the mind, and what might be just a hello for you, like, I'm sure he's checking me out, and that could be like the auto mechanic, or something like, it's like our brains do different things. Our cells in our body do different things, which is why we got to stay close to higher power, get, the proverbial, orders from Charlie and stick to them, right? Trust God, clean house, help others. We got to be in service mode, Rhea was saying she's got a lot to do. I have to study for my statistics exam and my master's degree. I've got 7 guests coming over. I've got 10 tons of laundry. It's a holiday here, And yet there's something about being here with you guys. I needed to hear Rhea's message about my relationship with food that then made me commit my food to my sponsor, work out my menu before I start getting a little creative after a fast. I need to hear that message. I need to stay centered. I need to get my marching orders for the day, because when we get creative, it gets really messy. And I love that you had this like professional director come in and you told them what to do. I just love that visual, because that's how ridiculous we look. Like, that's how we act. And many of us in recovery, when we look back, we're like, I can't believe I was such a witch when I started my career in Manhattan. Like, I can't believe I was such an obnoxious know-it-all. Or I can't, my husband passed away. Like, I can't believe I was like so verbally, yikes, So we go for progress, not perfection. It's clear that Rhea is living in steps 10, 11, and 12. Rhea, I personally would love for everyone to write their questions in the chat. I'm curious about how you work with others, what fellowships you work with others, and what that looks like in your day-to-day.
Sure. So my main recovery program is OA, Overeaters Anonymous. Thank God I have a studio next to my house. And so I make it available for live meetings 2 days a week. We have an all addictions big book step study in the studio, and we have a live OA meeting on Wednesday mornings. I go on other meetings like this and speak. I am a sponsor, and I actually need more sponsees. So if anyone is looking for a sponsor in OA, please message me. And just, one day at a time, that's how I do it. The more specifics of how I work my program, I can definitely talk about outside of the meeting, but that's for me, because I have a lot of commitments. I don't do a lot on the world service level or the intergroup level, just because I don't have that kind of time. But one-on-one and in my groups, definitely.
Hey, Reco12 Spearheads. If our recovery resources have helped you, please consider a donation. Your financial support, as well as your word-of-mouth support, keeps Reco12 running and reaching the man who is still sick. Donate today at reco12.com/support, or check the show notes for PayPal and Venmo links. Every contribution helps carry the message. Thanks for being a Reco12 Spearhead.
Cool. And what have you gotten out of working with others? Can you share about that?
Oh yeah. What have I gotten out of working with others? It reinforces for me everything that I need to know. When I hear people going through the same things that I went through and being like, well, guess what? This is what happened to me, and I can share it with you. That's the most thing that's reinforced for me, is like every experience I've had, every difficulty I've had is basically just for me to use to help someone else. Everything. And I may not even know it, and usually don't know it, but now when something comes up, it's like, oh, okay. Like one day I'm sure someone will come to me and be like, I'm obsessed with money things and trying to like fix things. And, things are so hard and I don't know what to do. And I will have experience to share with them. I've had experience to share dealing with grief and loss. And, in this program, I've gone through almost every kind of thing. I mean, like I said, I've lost a parent. I've gotten married. I've had children. I had a miscarriage. I have moved across the world. I've lost friends. I've gained friends. I've changed careers. I've done all different, I've published a book. Like I've done all of these things. I've experienced success, which, by the way, is for me more dangerous for my recovery than failure. Because when success happens, it's so easy for me to say that it's because of me. when really it's all God. So I need to be careful around that. My point is that every experience I go through is for me to use to help someone. And so working with others has really reinforced that for me. And it actually brings me so much gratitude for everything I've been through when I'm able to offer that.
I love what you said. As addicts, sorry, my emergency pager just started beeping. So sometimes we, especially if we're codependent, we may overshare and talk about our problems out there and be met with blank stares or kind of weird expressions, or be like, oh, I just exposed myself. And, in these rooms, how comforting it is when somebody says to us, yeah, I've been there. Or, I just shared like a kid incident with a new sponsor a week ago. She's like, oh yeah, my kids did that. My kids put me through the ringer. Oh yeah. And it's just like, thanks for not making me feel like a freak. I mean, even in these rooms, right? I've had sponsors who are, older single people, and they'll be like, yeah, I think you better talk to a fellow who has kids. Anyway, but yeah, your dark past will be your greatest asset, right? Everything that you went through, your pain, your loss, your grief, your abandonment, your rejection, your oversharing, your obsessive relationships, your all that stuff will help someone else, when you 12 steps someone, because we're open, because we're shining that recovery light, someone might come up to you and they might kind of nervously hint that they've got some mental illness in their family. You're like, it's cool. Like, it's good. Like, I'm here. Like, no judgments. Like, I could probably take it. I've experienced, I've heard most everything, and unfortunately I've experienced most everything too. So like, we're cool. No judgments. So your dark past will be your greatest asset. And I'm gonna, put in a plug for step 12. I wouldn't be doing my step 12 if I didn't. Anybody who has recovery experience, strength, and hope to share, I'm going to ask you to speak on this meeting.
Hey, can I ask a question without writing it in the chat? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Karen.
Sure, I'll just finish what I was going to say. And I'm just going to encourage everybody on here to go ahead and sponsor. If you've been through the 12 steps, please start working with others. That is where the magic happens. That is where the mega magic happens. And you really just feel not alone, and you change as a person. You get out of selfishness. You're just like not living in a world of what do I need? What do they need? You're like, oh, that person has a cold. Maybe they need a tissue or some OJ. Oh, my friend, her son probably needs a place to eat. Just get out of that mindset of being so selfish. So yeah, Brandy, go ahead and unmute yourself, please.
Thank you so much. Really, no word. That was so powerful. I'm so happy for you. Your share is as beautiful as you are and so clear. Just, wow, if we could only get that level of step 3. My question is if you could share a little bit about how I'm doing step 3, and the program is helping you with your mothering.
Sure. So here's the thing that I've realized. I'm just the babysitter. Like, because God runs my life, God sent me these children and assigned me to take care of them. And so I don't have to worry about how they reflect. I'm not parenting out of fear of how they reflect on me. I'm parenting out of love for them, of who they are specifically as they are, and getting them the support that they need in line with who they are. I have teenagers now. I have 20 somethings and teenagers. So, I'm in it. And the one thing that really gives me peace. I had a moment, like a step 3 moment about 1.5 years ago with my son. We made Aliyah to Israel about 4 years ago. And my oldest son, who I mentioned, was on the spectrum, and it was really like a big ask of him to come here. But he will tell you that his life here is better, but he basically emotionally shut down for 2 years. and was like not functioning, suicidal. And I kept trying to like fix it, like find a solution. Maybe it's this therapist, maybe it's this, maybe we need this, maybe this. And I was making myself exhausted. And it hit me that I'm not actually supposed to fix anything for him. I'm just supposed to provide resources, and then he gets to choose whether he uses them or not. Because my son really, like, I call him Eeyore, so he's like, like he's like a rock that I'm trying to push uphill, and it makes me tired. And I need that energy for my other kids and for other people. So all I need to do really is ask God what I need to provide for my child, tell my child I love them and I'm there for them in everything, and then move on. Because ultimately, the biggest gift I can give my kids is for them to take responsibility for themselves. I grew up with parents who, if I made a mess, they just cleaned it up. And like, I remember when everything changed for me in terms of recovery, there was one night my mom said to me, like, I wish I could just fix it for you. And like, it was as if God was speaking through me. I was just like, maybe it's not your job to fix it for me. And we were both like, what? Like we had not, it had never occurred to either of us that was a possibility, but that's it, right? Like, the greatest gift I can give my child is the dignity of their own process and learning from what they're going through. Obviously, I'm their cheerleader. I'm taking care of them, and making sure I'm providing them with what they need. But ultimately, they need to take the reins in their own lives. Now, obviously, for like, little kids, that's not the same. But it is in some ways. Like in some, where am I stepping in with my kids where they can take responsibility for themselves? That's what I have to offer.
Amazing. I, for one, needed to hear that. And I hope all you master enablers on the line took that in. Let our kids or our spouses or peers have their own processes to figure things out themselves and trust that they have a higher power who's looking out for them. Well, we are out of time here. So I'm going to go ahead and ask Rhea to please pray us out. Rhea, for your knowledge and everybody else's, this meeting will be recorded. It was recorded, and we have a recording usually within a week of the call or so. So make sure to get that out to you.
Okay. With the serenity prayer? Okay. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Your will, not mine, be done. Thanks.